Welcome to another Fate chat where I'll be discussing some of the things going on in Fire Emblem Heroes. First off, we got the next update preview scheduled for early May, so let's go over those changes. Then I want to give my thoughts on the latest batch of beast units. I know I'm a bit late, but I did manage to snag a few of them, so I'll give a short review after getting to use them so far. Last, I did manage to also pull Legendary Alm, and since his banner is still up, I want to talk about him more to give you guys an idea of what to expect out of him and if he's worth getting. Alright, those were our topics, and feel free to comment about any of them down below. The new update 3.5 preview brings some new things to Aether raids. First off, we are getting mock friend battles, which is something people have asked for, and it's nice to see get added. Basically, you can freely challenge your friends' Aether raids defense teams. Since you can also see the ranking, go ahead and see who's at the top, and maybe steal some ideas for your own defense teams if you aren't doing so hot. Important to note that this is an opt-in feature, but it is set by default to allow friends to challenge defense maps. I mean, unless you're alerted at the very top and you want to give other people practice against your defense map, I don't see why you wouldn't allow this. Either way, no big deal, this is a cool new feature. Maybe this will extend to Aether resorts too, since it'd be fun to see other people's setups in game. As for actual Aether raids gameplay mechanics, we are getting two new structures, and they work for both offense and defense. The Bright Shrine and Dark Shrine lower certain stats of the foe on the enemy team who has the highest total of those stats through their next actions. So the description is a little vague, but it basically sounds like a chill type effect. The max debuff is -5, and I assume that means maybe 5 levels of upgrades, although it could start at like -3 for level 1. So without knowing exactly what stats we're talking about, I have to assume there is going to be one that affects attack, and you can bet a lot of people are going to use that structure for their defense maps. -5 attack can make a big difference, and when you need to KO an enemy in one round, so we'll have to see just how annoying these new structures will be. Maybe Harsh Command really will start to be more useful. Last, for Aether resorts, an icon is being added just so you know when to visit the resort for the daily 10 R&R affinity. Nice quality of life feature. Also, 3 new amenities are being added this time, and they are for the inn building. Amenities are just little add-ons like the rubber ducks and the hot springs. Overall, these are some nice updates for Aether raids and Aether resorts, and we'll just have to keep an eye on those new shrine structures. Next, we of course have new weapons and refines. This time we have brand new weapons for Sully, Lucas, Faye, and Stall. Sully and Stall are following in the steps of Cain and Abel, with Sully getting the Bull Spear and Stall getting the Panther Sword. Will they be copies of Cain and Abel's weapons, or will they be slightly different? If I had to guess, I would bet the refines probably keep a similar effect to Cain and Abel's weapons, being that they get stronger when fighting near each other. Hopefully it's not the same effect, because if you compare Sully with Abel and Stall with Cain, well, the OG Christmas Cab duo would use the Brave effect better. Since everyone is now in the 3 to 4 star pool, I feel like most people would just use Cain and Abel if Sully and Stall get the same weapons. Hopefully that's not what happens. For Lucas, well, it's been a great couple of weeks for him. After finally losing the highest defense for an infantry unit title, he got a new ult that has the highest defense in the whole game. Now his regular form is getting a new weapon called the Daybreak Lance. Obviously Lucas is just a monster physical tank, and if they want to keep things simple, all you need to do is give him more attack and more defense. He's gotten popular builds with Berkut's Lance too, so I could even see Lucas getting extra res too. He does come with the Killer Lance by default, so I can definitely see a weapon with Accelerate Special Trigger, plus some other effect for the upgrade refine, maybe Guard. I'm sure whatever he gets will be good. Last, we have Faye, who gets the Bow of Devotion. Now, Faye's weapon can go in a few interesting directions. She's the only one with the Fire Sweep Bow, but is arguably one of its worst users because she's so darn slow. Once the weapon refinery hit, Faye found herself a new weapon in the Guard Bow, which grants extra defense and res. With her low speed but pretty decent defense and resistance, Faye was a perfect Guard Bow plus Quick Riposte tank. Tenure Systems does sometimes give units new weapons with the effects of their more popular inheritable weapon builds. For example, Shirshi got a unique Brave Axe and Sophia got a unique Raven Tome. I can totally see Faye getting a unique Guard Bow weapon, although maybe a unique Fire Sweep Bow could change things too. For example, maybe she gets a Fire Sweep Bow and a way to guarantee a follow-up. Or maybe it's a bow that stops enemy counterattacks but still allows Faye to counter back, since that interaction is possible these days with Null Seed Disrupt. I'd love to see her get something unique, especially since she is still a 5-star exclusive. Moving on, we have Rutger and Spring Loki getting added to the Heroic Grail shop, so get those extra copies if you want. The Equip Sacred Seals menu is getting another change. The last one added little blips on the scroll bar to let you know where A, B, and C skills were in the list, and this time they're giving us the option to use icons instead of whole names of skills. This is really good for those of you who are familiar with all the Sacred Seals by now and know each skill by their icon. You can still view the name and effects, you just have to tap and hold the icon. This is just another way to decrease the size of this menu since we have so many options now. It's another pretty good change, and it's totally up to you if you want to use it. Last but not least, Blessed Gardens is being discontinued. Late next month, Blessed Gardens are no longer being updated. I'm pretty sure they aren't going away. they just won't be adding any new stages. For what reason, I have no idea. However, because of this, the rewards from Blessed Gardens is being shifted to Allegiance battles. That means every week you will be able to earn a Wind, Earth, Fire, or Water blessing for rank rewards. For score rewards, the number of hero feathers goes up, and they are adding Divine Dew and Orbs. Similar to Blessed Gardens, each week will grant a different item. I assume the number of hero feathers from Allegiance battles stays the same. For example, in my score tier, I'm receiving 2,000 feathers. Blessed Gardens normally gives out 2,000 feathers too, so I assume they would just add 2,000 feathers to every tier if that week is only giving feathers. The next week you would get Divine Dew instead of extra feathers, with Blessed Gardens giving 20 Divine Dew at a time. The third week changes to Orbs, so it would be however many feathers plus 5 Orbs. All of this is assuming they don't change the reward amounts from Blessed Gardens. There it was static, so as long as you beat the level, everyone got the same amount of rewards. However, Allegiance Battles has tiers, so will they give up more or less depending on the tier? Personally, I don't think they should do that, but who knows what's going to happen. I would just tack it on as a reward for participating. We'll have to wait almost a whole month to find out. Fingers crossed, everyone ends up getting something. Next up, I want to talk about our newest beast units from a couple banners back. With our third beast banner, I was able to pull Ranulf, Leith, and Knagus. Ranulf is an interesting beast unit. He trends more toward on the supportive side since his base kit is all about buffing allies with more attack and defense, and he has chill attack to debuff the strongest enemy. Important to note that Ranulf's weapon works on all unit types, which means with his rally attack and defense plus assist skill, he can provide +9 attack and defense to anyone. He does have Ward Beast, which is good for beast only teams and just makes them tankier overall. Out of the box, Ranulf is ready to be a great buff bot for any team. You can always swap his C skill and Sacred Seal to match your needs as well. As a cavalry beast unit, Ranulf gets a bonus when initiating fights, and while his weapon does grant him stats too, he's not going to be the scariest opponent out there. To balance out his support kit, I do think Ranulf wants some sort of offensive A skill. I gave mine Darting Blow since it's cheap. He is fast and gains some damage when initiating while transformed. However, I don't feel like Ranulf is a huge damage threat. He can get the job done, but there are deadlier beast units for offense. One of those units is Leith, who is the polar opposite of Ranulf. Leith is a red beast unit who also falls under the cavalry type. In terms of offense, her 33 attack and 38 base speed is really good for a cavalier, and she gets 3 extra speed from a unique weapon. Brazen Cat Fang also has attack and speed solo, so that's another +6 attack and speed right there. Leith even has speed and defense solo as her A skill, so she is very strong when alone. This is alright for her because cavalry beast units are strongest when initiating fights, since they debuff an enemy with attack and defense debuffs. Putting everything together, Leith is quite similar to Tabarin as a hyper offensive red unit who can move 3 spaces. She can use Heavy Blade effectively with Gale Force to create the same oppressive playstyle. Despite this, I would still give the edge to Tabarin personally, since flyer mobility is extremely good on maps with lots of forest tiles or mountains. I also feel like Tabarin is a bit more destructive damage wise, and if you use Gale Force, you are sacrificing a damage special. Regardless, I still think Leith is very good, and you do need to be careful of her. With her base kit, if she is by herself, she reaches over 50 speed, so yeah, she can be quite problematic even when taking her down. Even though Tabarin and Leith are the same color, I can't say I'm disappointed in having another 3 movement Gale Force user. Finally, we get to Knagus. Oh boy, as our first armored beast unit, Knagus is unsurprisingly pretty darn good. First thing to note is that he has a very strong base kit, but it's entirely centered on the enemy phase. He can use Bolt Fighter like other army units, but I think he's fine as a defensive tank. Knagus is one of those units you just funnel all the buffs into and he'll carry a team to victory. He gets tons of extra attack and his weapon literally just grants plus for all stats when attacked first. Oh yeah, he also has distant counter when transformed, and with distant defense 4, even range units have to think twice about attacking him first. Now, something I found hilarious is that Knagus is a damn monster if you also have Ranulf supporting him. Ranulf can add +9 attack, +13 defense, and +4 resistance by himself. Because of this, I actually think Warding Stance is a strong Sacred Seal if you run this duo. Knagus actually already has good defense, and Ranulf buffs it even higher. He has distant defense and his weapon granting extra res, but Warding Stance gets those numbers up even higher, and it helps him fight off dragons too. Knagus is crazy good as a single buffed up tank, and since he's colorless, he also doesn't have any major weaknesses unless it's a Raven Tome user. Admittedly, the only thing that sucks is not having a guard type effect, since specials will still punch through some of his absurd defenses. If guard ever becomes a Sacred Seal, then that would be amazing, although that goes for just about every tank out there. Overall, Knagus can be very scary if supported properly. His player phase is his major weak point, but with such a strong enemy phase, it's a fair trade-off. He's a very interesting unit to add to my beast collection. My last topic for this video is Legendary Alm. I managed to pull one and I'm very happy with him so far. As expected, this guy can dish out a lot of damage and is very devastating if he's allowed to free fire. Even against high defense enemies, Alm can still do good damage thanks to Lunar Arc adding damage based off of the enemy's defense stat. His Lunar Flash special is also quite impressive, and I did use it with Flashing Blade as a Sacred Seal since Alm is so fast. As you can see with Flashing Blade, even if the enemy doesn't hit back, Alm can still proc Lunar Flash on his second hit. With Darting Blow 4, it's ridiculously tough to stop his follow-up, and even without my Ephraim or Erica giving him speed buffs, Alm would still double some of these enemies who have like 43 speed. Either way, Alm can do a lot of work when he gets Lunar Flash off, and I'm very happy with how strong he is. Now, the reason Alm has no follow-up would seem to imply is that he's made for tank busting, specifically armor units who love Warrior Fighter. Public enemy number 1 is definitely Surtur for those type of units, and sadly, even with a ton of attack, Legendary Alm isn't exactly a huge counter. Thanks to Lunar Arc and no follow-up, he can do good damage getting off 2 attacks, but Surtur will probably survive. Despite having Flashing Blade, that gets countered by Surtur's Steady Stance 4, so Alm can't even proc Lunar Flash, which would probably get him the 1-round KO. I can see why he has no follow-up, but if you want him to bust Warrior Fighter army units specifically, I think Darting Blow 4 ends up being a waste since they're usually very slow units. Honestly, if you don't need no follow-up, then Desperation is going to be deadly. However, if you do stick with it and want Alm to fight these crazy army units, you may want to trade Darting Blow for Death Blow or Sturdy Impact if you have it. The extra defense would really help Alm out, although he can take a hit from any distant counter users. Overall, Legendary Alm is still pretty deadly, but he's definitely not a perfect armor counter. Against other unit types, he will absolutely rip through them if he's allowed to attack twice and proc Lunar Flash. Now, I just wanted to showcase an Allegiance battle because I do have both Legendary Roy and Legendary Alm. With the both of them, I can bring 3 total paired up units, which makes things vastly easier if you want a higher score. At the start, you'll see I have 3 sword units, but with pair up, I have Roy paired with my Myrrh, Alm paired with my Ephraim, and BK paired with a friend's Halloween Jacob. I don't really end up using Alm a lot in this battle specifically, but I just want to showcase how things play out when you do have these extra pair ups on the field. Because you get bonus points for a pair of units KOs, you actually do need at least one of Legendary Roy or Alm if you want to get the max amount of bonus points. That's not the maximum score total since that's based on your arena rating. If you want to score a little bit higher in Allegiance battles, now is the time to try and get either Roy or Alm on that Legendary banner. Otherwise, you would just have to wait till June's Legendary banner, which is where I assume a 3rd Legendary hero with pair up will appear. The fact that you need at least one of those legendary heroes is a bit disappointing. The reason I'm using both Erica and the Black Knight is because they are my only 5-star plus 10 units, and I want to get the highest arena score I could. To me, pair up is actually very cool, and in the context of Allegiance battles, with its objective-based game, it actually creates some interesting scenarios. Still, I wish they made it more available, and requiring certain units to get the max amount of points is a bit scummy. I know it's to promote sales and all that, but I was hoping it didn't have to be so focused on player versus player competition. At the end of this fight, you actually see me get wrecked by Erica because I forgot she has drag back. Because of that, it's not a perfect run, but still, I just hope it showcased just how you can play with 3 pair-ups on the field instead of just the one you get for free. Anyway, thanks for watching this Fade chat, and do feel free to discuss in the comments about any of these topics. I'm looking forward to the next update, and Legendary Alm gets a thumbs up from me. I've got a couple of fun videos planned for this weekend. Hopefully I can finish those up before it's update time. Golden Week is currently having its quintuple EXP and SP event, so that's 5 times the normal amount. Definitely a good time to farm with some units. Thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next video.